Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Why Everyone Plays series. And in today's video, we're gonna be playing someone that everyone plays, and that is Galan or Galactus. Settled into the contest with a staff that holds two planets, or I think that's a star or something, but we'll talk about his attire later. Galan is one of the most played champions in the game, and one that you'll pretty much find running around everywhere. One of the best defenders as well as one of the better attackers in the game, but we'll pretty much talk on that a bit later because like we always do with these kinds of videos, let's actually go over all of his abilities first and then later on discuss why everybody plays him.
What you about to do? Please? Not me, nigga.
Galan starts each quest with 1 persistent solar intensity, which becomes 2 when he's defending, and 3 if he's actually a final boss. When he defeats a non-dimensional being, he gains an additional solar intensity, and at the start of the fight, he gains 1 indefinite intensity passive for each solar intensity, which increases the potency of all future buffs by 20%. When he's at 3 solar intensity, all of his special attacks will gain a True Sense buff, which bypasses the effects of miss as well as auto block. But onto his immunities, which are pretty much the bread and butter of this character. Galan has immunity to Fate Steal as well as Nullify effects. He also gains immunity to Power Drain, Power Burn, Power Lock, as well as Special Lock, which is, oh my goodness. His first light attack, his second medium attack, strike with the planetary side of the staff, which grant him 1 indefinite resist physical buff, which increases physical resistance by a certain amount, and the max of these that he can have is 20. The first medium attack, which he strikes with the solar side of the staff, gives him 2 indefinite resist energy buffs, which increase energy resistance by a certain amount, and the max of these that you can have is 20. Now once he's actually at his max, building any new resistance buffs will actually replace the previous versions with an updated one. But moving on to his planetary mass as well as his harvest. Whenever Galan gains a buff, his planetary mass increases by 10, and he also gains 50 planetary mass whenever the opponent gains an armor up effect. The max amount of planetary mass that he can have is 999, and whenever he is knocked down by a special attack, he actually loses 30 of the planetary mass per bar of power spent. Landing a heavy attack while he's at 100 or more planetary mass will trigger the harvest, and upon activating the harvest, Galan will be unable to gain power if he's over a bar of power. On defense, the harvest actually activates when he reaches 100 or more planetary mass. The harvest lasts for 14 seconds, and when the harvest ends, he will then consume all planetary mass and deal a burst of direct damage for each planetary mass consumed, and this damage scales with base attack only and is halved on defense. While the harvest is active, Galan gains an unstoppable buff as well as a regen buff, healing a certain amount of health per second, and if Galan performs a special attack while the harvest is active, it becomes unblockable and the harvest ends. The burst of damage will then trigger at the final hit of the special attack. But speaking of special attacks, the special one. On activation, Galan will gain 4 fury buffs, which last for 26 seconds, and increase attack rating by a certain amount. And while the harvest is active, it converts all of Galan's resistance buffs into 5 planetary mass each. The special 2. On activation, Galan will gain 8 intensity buffs, each lasting 22 seconds, and increase the potency of all new buffs by 5%. The final 3 hits each inflict 1 incinerate debuff, dealing a certain amount of energy damage over 14 seconds, and while the harvest is active, it'll instead inflict 3 incinerates per hit with the same potency as well as the same duration. Unfortunately, this part of his ability is still bugged. He inflicts 7 rather than 9, but we'll talk about that later. But for now, the special 3. Galan will immediately gain 200 planetary mass and begin the harvest if it's not already active. If he launches the special 3 while the harvest is already active, it refreshes the duration of the currently activated harvest and enables Galan to actually gain power again. But on to his Cosmic Seed. Once per quest, he can actually consume 2 Solar Intensity in the pre-fight menu and place a cross-fight Cosmic Seed on the next fight. The next Cosmic Champion, excluding Galan to enter the fight, will then gain the seed and become a Herald for the rest of the quest. Whenever a Herald emerges victorious, the seed will then grow in power and grants additional abilities. Victories max out at 5, and these are the effects that you gain. Once you're at 0 victories, Heralds will reduce the potency of all power burn effects by 100%. After 1 victory, Heralds will gain a 7% resistance to all damaging debuffs for each victory, and at 2 or more victories, Heralds will become unblockable when launching a special attack into an opponent's block, and this buff lasts for the duration of the special attack, with an additional 1 second added for each victory. Once activated, the ability will then go on cooldown for 24 seconds and won't trigger again while it's active. But moving on to his awakened ability, whenever he prevents a power drain, power burn, power lock, or special lock effect from a non-mystic champion, via the immunity, he will gain a certain amount of indefinite physical resistance as well as energy resistant buffs. And while the harvest is active, Galan will also become stun immune and deal a burst of additional direct damage whenever he gains any amount of planetary mass, and this damage scales with base attack only. And oh my goodness, that was a whole comic book to read, but it's pretty much worth it because all of it comes together to make this absolute beast of a champion. But first off, let's talk about his attire. Now me personally, I'm not that big of a fan of his attire. However, it definitely does look good as well as clean. And the guy has 2 planets on his staff, bro. What? He is jacked, yet he is wearing a dress. And he's also bald, but he wears like a helmet thing, which still looks funny, but then somehow still looks good as well. I can't really explain it, man. He even has a G on his chest for Galan. Oh, come on, man. We already know who you are, man. You don't need the G on the chest. I like the look of the planets as well. It's pretty much just wow. No one else in the contest does it like him. Even on the end screen, he's pretty much biting planets and the balls are flying around him. Pause. He's just too clean, man. And also, let's talk about his profile picture, because this is my personal favorite in the entire game. I don't know what it is about it, but it just looks so good, man. But anyways, onto the topic of why everybody plays him. Now Galan, oh boy, this dude in his best matchups is pretty much the best champion you can ever bring. And to say that might sound a bit funny, but it's pretty much true, man. In some of his best matchups, he can pretty much reach 999 planetary mass with just a few hits, and then with a special one, you pretty much reach the max harvest damage, which in my opinion is just, it's so good, man. Of course, he is made to counter more tech champions than other classes. However, even when he actually is facing other classes, and even when he is fighting mystic champions, he still does pretty good, especially when it comes to short to medium length fights. The only problem with him, however, I would say is that in longer fights, he's not necessarily the best. He definitely can do them, but you really don't want to do it with this guy, man. Constantly building up the planetary mass and throwing these specials all over again and again and again. His numbers are pretty much set and they do not grow or increase with buffs after he's actually fully ramped up. And so he's a pretty static character. You can't really increase his harvest damage except by ranking him up, as well as through ascension. That's pretty much it. But I feel like that is a good enough of a restriction, because if his planetary mass burst damage was based off of something else, this dude would be the best character in the game. Okay, maybe second to Hercules, but yeah. Another reason why everyone plays him is that he's pretty much not hard at all to play. Pretty much what you want to do is just go for medium, light, medium attacks, until you reach either the special 2 or the special 3, depending on the length of the fight. And then you enter the harvest, and then you throw a special attack, and then you just repeat the process. Unfortunately, nowadays he does see a little bit less play. On defense, he pretty much gets countered by anyone that has neutralize. And on attack, there sometimes are just better options in general. However, don't let that make you see this character any differently, because he is still a beast and one of the powerhouses in the contest. And that is pretty much it for Galan. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to join my Discord group in case you have anything you want to discuss, or if you pretty much just want to come out and hang out with us. The link will be in the description. And let me know down in the comments who next I should make a video on. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!